Good day, everyone. Today we'll be talking about a straightforward topic, which is about passing data from one screen to another screen. Over here, we have optimized network call screen, which is here, and you can see that retractable clause. This is basically the data we got from calling this API over here. Now, in certain scenarios, you might need to pass data from this screen to another screen to do a form of computation. Well, let's see how we can do this. Over here, I'm going to create a new file called second screen dot. Let me make it stateful. I'm going to show you stateful. Let's do the first one. Please, Baki, confirm that you can hear me. Let me make sure that I'm not talking to myself.
I can hear you, sir.
Okay. Stateful. I think I should. Second screen stateful. Okay, here we have it. And let's add another button here. Let's not call it reload. Let's add another button and let's call it navigate. I'm going to comment this out. We'll call this navigate. And I'm going to navigate navigator dot push to pass my material page routes. Oh shit, power has gone out. And we know that this is how we usually do it, Abi. If you remember your navigation, this is how we navigate, Abi.
Yes.
Okay, so now once I click on it, you can see it has taken me to this screen here, which I have not given a scaffold, which I will give shortly, and the body. Yeah, let me give this a safe area, and yeah, we can see that we are in a new screen. Just to make sure that to show you that we are in a different screen, I'm going to change the background color here to blue. So I go back, I navigate here. Now we are in a situation whereby we want to pass data from this screen. Let me go back from this screen to this other screen. Now, how are we to do that? Remember, I keep saying that in Flutter, everything is a widget and everything is a class. Now, as you can see over here, you can see the class declaration here telling you that this is a class. And I've already showed you guys how classes work, whereby you can declare a class like this and you can give it properties. String number of students. I did not spell that correctly. Number of students, and after you've declared the properties, you're going to create the instance here, and you're going to declare if these properties are actually required or not. So you can do it like this. And just a quick recap, we know that putting it like this means this argument here is a positional argument and it is required. So if I have something like this, let's say if I'm creating an instance of my class, I must pass in string here. We have talked about this, so it shouldn't look like as if I'm performing miracle at this point. Number of classes, let's say number of classes, and of course we can do the optional param here. Now this says the parameter number of classes can't have a null value because of its type. We can either make here a nullable which flies, or we can initialize it like this. So basically, this my class here, creating this instance and saving it into this variable, it's these values that will be here. So once we come into this place, we can do a number of classes and we can pass, let's say, 10. Yeah. This is just quick recap of what we touched about in classes. Now, if you take a look at this, my second screen stateful class over here, you can see that this is a class over here. Even though it's extending another class, just ignore that part. We can see that it follows the same structure: class declaration, open parentheses, close parentheses, close parentheses. And you can also see that this instance here is also declared. This one too, the instance here is also declared. But now the difference is that we did not pass in variables for our class. So over here, it's just simple. We're going to declare our variables. Let's say gotten fact. And since you've declared it here, you have to declare it in the instance over here. You can decide to make it required like this. This is giving me an error here. Can't define a const constructor for a class with non-final fields. All what this grammar is saying is that if your variables declared here, if rather you declare your instance to be a constant, your variables must be final. Let me close this guy over here. NVIDIA broadcast. Okay, so if we put in here like this, it's going to take care of the error. But if we want to have the ability to change these variables, all we have to do is remove this const here, and that takes care of this. Now you can see that since we've declared arguments for our class, you can see that this other side is throwing up an error here saying the named parameter gotten fact is required. So now I can do gotten fact and I can pass in cat fact into this point. Now, what does it say? Oh, try performing hot restart. Okay. Now you can see from here, I am passing this variable cat fact into the second screen, which now leads to the next thing. How do we use these parameters declared within our class inside our project? Well, that one is quite simple. Let me just change this to a center widget with child, let's say text widgets, and this now in a stateful widget, if you should take a look at this over here is a different class entirely. This is a different class entirely. But here you can see that this second class extends the state of this first class here. So if you want to have access to the parameters that you've declared over here in a stateful widget, you first of all have to do widget dot, then you have the parameters that you've declared, which is this over here. So now we navigate and you can see the value here. Now if I go back, you can add as many as you like, int number, and of course with this one you can do this dot number, and you can declare, you can initialize a number. So if you do it like this, you can see that over here it is not required, but you can see that number is already declared to be 30. Now if I should put in, let me make this a column, and let me make this cat facts and widget dot content facts. Let me just double this and put number. So once I click on, let me reload the data so you can see that the data changes. So once I navigate here, you can see the cat facts here in Holland, blah blah blah, and you can see number 30. Now this number 30 here is me initializing the parameter. But if I want to override it, I can just come here, number, and put in, let's say, 45. Now, once I navigate, you can see that this number has changed to 45 because now I am passing it here. This particular parameter I declared here is an optional parameter because I initialized it and I did not add this keyword here, required. If you're confused, please go back to our classes. I did explanation for all these things over here. And that's for stateful widget. We can decide to, now let me show you the reason for that const that was here before and why it was throwing up error. Now let's say in this situation here, I have a function, or let's say inside this my build, I am doing something like widget dot gotten fact changed to this. Now once I enter inside here, you can see that I am able to change the value of this parameter here because I did not declare here to be final. Now if I'm to go back and declare here to be final means that this variable or the parameter cannot be changed. Final, you can see that here has thrown up an error. It says gotten fact can't be used as a setter because it is final. Try, all this English is just basically telling you that since you declared the keyword final, since you declared the keyword final, you can't modify the variable or the parameter again. And of course, if you have finals around, it's just right for you to add const to tell the compiler that this whole value here is a constant value and it doesn't change. But in a situation whereby you have one final and another that is not final, then the const will not be required because you can change one of the parameters. Yeah. So that's it for the stateful side. Now let me go for the stateless side. Okay, we have, now you can see that a stateless widget has fewer code to deal with. Let me move here to be stateful, navigate, and this other one will be stateless, stateless navigate. Okay, now over here we will do the same thing, which is string cat facts, and over here we're going to make this dot cat fact We are going to make this one required because we want to be passing variables into it. And of course, we're going to put here, in fact, let me just copy all these ones over here. Now, the difference between using your parameter in a in a stateless and a stateful is that for a state, for a stateless, you do not need the widget parameter here to access it. All you have to do is call the variable name or the parameter name, which is cat fact, because all these things are under the same class over here. So you just simply do this cat fact and you have access to it. It's that simple and it's that straightforward. So over here, I have my cat fact and let me change here to a red color so that you'll know it's a different screen that we are in. So once I select it, you can see I've passed it in. Stateful, and that's because we modified it at this point here. So if I should comment this one out, you can see this here. So yeah, that's it. That's how you pass data from one screen to another. And of course, you can pass in different data types in here. All you have to do is know exactly what you're passing in there and knowing how to use it. Yeah, so that's basically it for today's class. Baki, do you have any question?
Oh, no, sir.
Okay. And it sounds a bit rushed, but it's because it's really a simple and straightforward concept. All you have to do is just practice and practice it, and you'll see it. This is just simple. You have your class here, which is your screen. You declare the parameter names that you want to pass into it. You declare if it's required or if you want to initialize it. Then at the point of you calling that class, you can pass in the data you want and it moves. That's it. Simple and straightforward.
No. Okay, sir. Inshallah, once I am able to get another system, I will start all over.
Okay, well, no problem then. I'm going to